You might be surprised to find out who's out of work these days. It's not just construction workers or casino workers or seasonal workers. It's bosses, CEOs, managers, professional people of all types. Something else might surprise you too. There's an organization here in town to help them and to help the employers who want to hire them get together. This is a conversation about the unemployed professional. We all know this is a tough economy in which to look for a job, not just for laborers, but for skilled professionals. We recently talked with some unemployed professionals about why they're looking for work.
I have been an entrepreneur in Northern Nevada for 30 years, creating businesses that brought 350,000 people a year to the Reno Lake Tahoe economy. The marketplace totally changed with the advent of the internet and Indian gaming in California, and that business dissolved. So all of a sudden I find myself looking for a job.
I actually got laid off from Mitel, which is a telecommunications company. They had a corporate layoff. I say one of the lucky 200. Their layoff was basically a result of about a year and a half ago, they decided to change their business model. I think because of the downturn in the economy, they had gone public, it wasn't working, and they had to do something different. So they decided to kind of do a 180.
The program that I worked with the Boy Scouts was the Explorers and Learning for Life program, and that program was de-emphasized within Northern Nevada.
Which you were basically another victim of budget cutting.
That, in a way, is, I guess, an accurate statement.
My role there was in lab supervision. We had such functions as formulation of medications, analytic laboratory, and so I was a supervisor. And at a certain point, we had a downsizing based on cost-cutting measures. My position was eliminated.
Basically, I'm a financial controller. Last May, the company I was working with found out that their sales and profits were not where they needed to be. I was a very large part of their overhead costs, and I was downsized out. My position was eliminated from the company.
Well, at my last position, they decided to reorganize the office and eliminate administrative assistants. So the managers now, they're doing their own work.
Well, I look forward because I lost my job when I least expected it. So I just was looking for ways to get back on track and, most importantly, to find the confidence that I had lost.
All those people are members of a group called ProNet, a nonprofit networking organization that offers its help free of charge to unemployed professionals and to employers. Peter Droog is the branch manager of Reno's ProNet organization. And Peter, I just used one sentence to describe ProNet. I've heard you talk before. You can do it much more eloquently.
ProNet is a nonprofit organization, federally funded, but what makes us unique in the entire state of Nevada is that our demographic is specifically the professional. And it is actually a member-run organization so that the professionals continue to either maintain their skill sets or enhance new skill sets to make them more employable in the eyes of the employer.
How does it work? How do you go about keeping them, getting them up to speed and keeping them up to speed?
Initially, you come through, and of course, because we're federally funded, there's a ton of paperwork you have to do. But then they go through what we call core workshops, skills analysis in your 60-second me, resume writing, interviewing skills, job search skills, interviewing skills, connecting skills or networking skills, and compensation negotiations. And then we put you through a mock interview. Once you are then fully vested in the organization, we ask them to volunteer 5 hours a week to help run the organization. We have 6 committees in the organization: an admin committee, an IT committee, an education committee, a media market communication committee, a community partner committee, and a business development committee. And in those committees, they have an elected director and associate director, and then the entire organization has an elected president and vice president. They have term limits, so it's 8 weeks, 2 times, and then of course we want them to go back to doing their job search. But by allowing them to run the organization itself, it reinstills that confidence. I always tell the clients, just because you're unemployed, has your skill set changed? Has your experience changed? Has your education changed? No, it's your situation that has changed. And so that's where we reinstill confidence in the professionals.
That's a very good point, but also the workplace itself has changed. In fact, one of the challenges that a lot of these people face is that the rules of finding a job have changed. You may have lost a job that once seemed very secure, or perhaps you even went back to work because you thought you were retired, but the stock market didn't perform as well as you expected. Whatever the reason you look, members tell us it's a different world out there now than it was just a few years ago.
In the old days, you walked in and you asked for a job, you filled out a paper application, they might have interviewed right then, maybe you would get a job. Otherwise, you might send a paper resume and try to impress with your the paper you chose and the wonderful layout of your resume. And there were a lot fewer people in the job market for many jobs. Now there's very few jobs, tons of people wanting them, and everything is done online. So you're submitting a resume into a blank void. There's no way to show your personality or spruce it up or look different from someone else.
It used to be when I went to work, when out of the Army, got my first job at IBM, the fact that I had been in the Army and had a security clearance was all that was needed. They figured if you had that, then you're good to go, we will train you.
It used to be that you just went out and you looked at the newspaper, you looked at the internet, and you put in an application. You had a standard resume of everything you'd ever done, and you got a job or an interview. Now, if you're not out there networking, if you don't know people, if your resume isn't exact for that particular job that you're looking for or looking at, you're going away. It's not going to happen for you.
It's rough. I've had several interviews here in the Reno area. Some of the companies I've had 2 interviews with, but I've never been that final candidate that gets the job offer.
In my type of position, usually I would just go answer a couple ads and get a job. Now, you have to do all the networking. That used to be higher level jobs, now it's for everybody.
Now, Court Farmer, who was basically saying he had always been the bridesmaid and never the bride, you say he just got a job?
Just yesterday he got a job with a major construction company over the hill in California. So he is now the bride.
There is hope out there for everyone who's looking. How do you go about the actual training? You bring in experts from the community in some instances.
Oh, we do. Not only do the ProNetters, we put them through Training the Trainer so that they understand the concepts of training, and they put on several graduate workshops for us. But we also bring in several experts. We've had Karen Jensen, from HRC. Yesterday we had a workshop by Barry Myers, who's an accountant, managerial accounting. We've
got video of Alice Hyman.
Alice Hyman is another who has spoke. And then on Monday mornings we have speakers who are either motivational, informational, or inspirational. Because the concept is we want you to find a job, we want you to survive unemployment, and we want you to keep the job once you get your next job.
And you go into specific skills like resume skills. There's a lot of emphasis on networking.
In 1997, 97% of all jobs were on the internet. Today, approximately 40% of all jobs are in the internet because employers are afraid of the deluge of 300 to 500 resumes for every job they announce. So the job market has become hidden. And so now what's happening is to find that job, you have to go out and do the networking so that it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
Now, that's a great saying, but how do you do that? I know a lot of people. How do I get in the right circles to find a job?
We emphasize all sorts of networking events. In fact, if you think about it logically, the core workshop, the ProNetters do their 60-second meet all week long at every class. So now that's their first level of networking. Then on Monday morning, they have to do it in front of all of the ProNetters. That becomes your second level of networking. And then you go out and do your networking events, the WIN breakfast, chamber events, professional organizations. Everybody you know, you need to let them know that you are unemployed, because they can't help you if they don't know what your situation is.
One of the things that you mentioned a while ago is support. I suppose until you lose a job, you may not realize just how much of your self-esteem is tied up with what you do for a living. Of course, there's probably some benefit to learning that I am not my job, but it's a little hard to sell yourself convincingly when you have your tail between your legs. And that's one of the things the members told me they get from ProNet, support.
You lose confidence when you are laid off and when you lose a job. Obviously, you wonder why did that happen to me? You start looking for faults, and you start to find ways to get that hope back, because you lose hope very quickly. It's a tough market out there.
Hands down, everybody that I've met at ProNet, they're professional, they're hardworking, they're go-getters, and I think it helps you realize that sometimes bad things happen to good people. So, and you're in an area where you don't have to be embarrassed, because there's a little bit of embarrassment. Well, I'm unemployed, I don't have a job. But when you're with a whole group of other people who are unemployed, probably through no fault of their own, it just makes it really open and a safe place to be.
It has given me a framework in which to network, meet people that may have ideas, and helpful ideas at that, even if it's just something I hadn't thought of before. And also to see that, hey, there are people who have even many more skills than me, and even they have difficulty finding work. But also, in the volunteer work that we do in and beyond ProNet, I can see some of what else maybe I'm able to do, what else they're able to do, how we can work together and keep our spirits up. That's one of the toughest things during unemployment, is to keep a positive focus.
Stumbled around for a couple, 3 months with all the emotional baggage that goes with being laid off, and was turned on to ProNet and found out in ProNet that, hey, there were a lot of people out there like me.
There's so much encouragement and support from every single person. You can have a bad day, walk into ProNet, and your case manager will walk up and say, well, have you thought about this? Well, what about that? Come talk to me. Let's do this. Or another person will come in and say, I found a job that you might want to look at. There is just continual support.
We help encourage each other. We also provide our own internal network. For instance, at our meeting on Monday, one gentleman got up and was discussing what he was looking for, and another lady across the room, who's only been in ProNet a month, said, I've got a couple places, a couple people you need to talk to. Let me get you that information. Places he would never have heard of.
Now, we have some additional support with us here in the studio. And before I make introductions all around, just as we mentioned that Court Farmer, the last gentleman you saw talking, has just got a job. We should also mention that Catherine Oakes, the woman with the French accent, we referred to her as a ProNet graduate. She is now Marketing Director for Legends. Joining us now is Rich Goldman, who is another alumnus, and now you are your product manager for Miller Hyman.
Yes.
That is a sales performance consulting company?
Yes.
Thank you very much for joining us. And also Steve Mooney, who is Director of Infinity Hospice Care. He represents the employers who come to ProNet looking for employees. Thank you for joining us, Steve.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, I want to talk to you both, but Rich, I'm going to start with you. Since you have been through the ProNet program, let's talk about this issue of self-esteem and support a little bit. What did ProNet do for you in that regard?
Well, initially it kept me out of the fetal position. And what I mean by that, and I think some of the ProNetters stated it really well, is that we've not been in this kind of a situation before, this kind of an economy, and it's been real difficult to find jobs. People like myself who were employed for 30 years who were unable to find anything or being laid off for the first time. So having that support of ProNet, where you realize you're not alone in the world. And then with Peter and his team helping us realize what we're capable of and the learnings that we can have through the ProNet program, very inspirational. I mean, it's extremely inspirational to see some of the ProNeters get jobs. Yeah, you get a little jealous, but overall you're really happy for them, and it's inspirational for you because you know if they're getting one, it's only a matter of time before you become the bride.
There's hope for me too.
Exactly.
What are some of the most valuable things that you learned?
I think the most valuable things I learned there was getting out of my shell and networking. I think sometimes it stayed a little closed in, and by being able to go out to some of the networking programs that were there, not being afraid to utilize people I knew, people who wanted to help me. More people are willing to help you than you realize, but so many times, if I wasn't in ProNet, I probably would have just gone into a deep hole, sent out resumes, and wondered why aren't people answering. But being able to talk to people, in fact, the job I got at Miller Hyman was through a friend who sent a resume to my wife, who forwarded it to me. It looked like a good match. I took the interview and was fortunate enough to get the job.
And one of the things that we're all intimidated by, meeting that internet wall where we have to submit resumes online and things like that. But there really are real jobs with real people behind them if you know where to look for them.
Oh, exactly. And one of the classes that ProNet teaches is an advanced resume writing class. And I'd been sending my resume out and not getting a lot of hits. Went through the advanced resume class and realized how to reformat my resume and get everything, particularly in the top third of the resume, because people will give you 20 seconds maybe to take a look at that resume. And all of a sudden, the next 10 resumes I sent out, I got 7 hits and 7 interviews. And things started popping, which was quite nice at that particular moment.
That's good. And that 20 seconds on the resume takes us to the employer's perspective. I'd like to get there in a moment, but first I'd like to share an insider's view of the ProNet experience. I asked these members we talked with what they thought about when they looked around the room at their first ProNet meeting and they saw all the highly qualified people in there with them.
These are people who have years and years and wealth of experience, ranging from all different professions, medical, law, computer-based IT, administration. And as I've said, you would be amazed with the type of experienced type of people that come through that organization. And they really give it their all every day that they're there.
Presidents of companies, vice presidents of companies, very high-level executives, people with so much talent. When I was an employer, I wished I could have drawn on, tapped the resources of ProNet.
Were you surprised when you looked around the room and saw who you were with?
I am just in awe. I just took a class with a chemical engineer who taught me how to bake a cake at high altitude. I have been here for 10 years and I gave up baking. I mean, and she made it so simple. These people are just awesome.
Oh my goodness. The number of overqualified professionals that are out there in this town, in this market. These are people who in a normal market would be employed within 2, maybe 3 months. But some of them are going on a couple of years. Highly qualified people, and it was astonishing.
When you see the kind of qualifications they have and what kind of people they are, you wonder, wow, why can't any of us find jobs? I mean, there's a lot of great skills there and experience.
Well, I was surprised to see so many professionals at such high levels. We all had jobs of executive directors or CEOs, CFOs. Yes, I was extremely surprised to see, to be, first of all, to be part of those professionals, but the qualifications of those people, the quality, the expertise, the experience is unequaled. It is absolutely incredible. So I really encourage employers to check first with ProNet when they're looking for someone that has those type of qualifications. They'll find what they need.
There's a plug from Catherine Oakes, the graduate of ProNet. Employers should do their shopping there. Steve Mooney, you're an employer. You have followed that advice. Is it good advice?
It is good advice. We've done our shopping. As Peter said, a lot of resumes are put on Career Builder, Monster Board. One position, you can get 250 feedbacks. The nice thing about ProNet, 1, it's local. 2, they're professional. They've been coached, they've been led, and it's nice when they come to the job interview, they're prepared. They've done their homework very well. They have transferable skills. And with that, they're adaptable as well to come into our organization and be successful.
Now, that's an interesting perspective because most of the ProNet members that I talked with are having to retool themselves and repackage themselves for a job different than they've had before. I would suspect in the hospice business, you're not necessarily looking for someone who can instantly fill a niche that is very specialized to your business. You're looking for a skill set.
That's correct. And one of those positions was a sales marketing position, working with physicians, and we actually hired a person that had been in the pharmaceutical field. They were able to use that skill set from sales processing and being able to adapt it to the physicians that we're trying to market.
And you have been able to, you've been successful enough at this that you have gone back 2 and 3 times. When you call Peter, what help does he offer? How can he help you find someone who fits one of these positions?
He's helped us find someone by variety of professionals that he has and he's coached and developed. Take, for instance, one of our positions, we were looking for a volunteer coordinator position. This person had worked previously in the past in California, came to this marketplace, had been unemployed for 2 years. The ProNet kept their confidence up, was able to keep looking at their strengths and what they could bring to the table. Those strengths transferred over to us, and that person's been very successful.
And Peter, I know it's probably a frustration to you that you're one of the best kept secrets in town. How do you let employers know about what you have available?
Well, if employers go to our website, pronetreno.com, there's a tab on there for employers. If they're looking, there's 20 professions listed, and they can click on that, and there's what we call the mini bio. It's about 3 bullets of what each member is most proud of. If that excites the employer, they click on that. It will send us an email, and we will respond with a full resume, a corresponding resume. Keep in mind, it's still a little bit generic because the individual doesn't know the position they're applying for, but it expands upon what they're proud of. Then the employer now totally controls the hiring process, because if that excites them, they can contact the individual themselves, bring them in for the interview. No cost, no hassle, no 500 resumes. They own the whole hiring process.
And Steve, that sounds like an important consideration, because you can really be overwhelmed if you put something out on the internet that you have a position open.
That's true. And it takes time, and time takes out of our busy day too, that we need someone today to come in and fill that position.
Well, we have time to get a little bit of last minute advice. I know that all of these people that we brought into the studio to talk about had words of advice for the job hunting professional. There are a lot of people out there looking for work, and these words of advice come from actual ProNet members.
This is a cliche. Who you know is what it used to be characterized, but now it's who knows you.
It's important to stay engaged and not stay hidden at home and think one day the job will come to you.
ProNet is not going to find you a job. It's going to give you the training and the resources to help you find a job. And it's definitely one of those organizations that you're going to get out of it as much as you put into it.
Definitely make sure that you're a very outgoing person. If you're the type of person who just likes to go online and search the job boards like Monster or Indeed or Google, you're not going to have the type of success that you would otherwise. As I've learned through ProNet, about 80% of the jobs that are out there in the market are found through networking, face-to-face or otherwise.
That's their main thing, is to keep you updated on how to find a job, how to be relevant today, how to take your skills into something new, because many of us have had the same situation where due to budget cuts, the change in the economy, our positions were eliminated. It's time to try something new.
Make sure you understand exactly who you are and what you want, and try to express it in a couple of sentences. You know, it's the elevator speech or elevator pitch that every salespeople is working out, but I think this is the critical part, is first of all, understand who you are, understand your strengths, and when you present them, when you talk about yourself, be extremely confident in the way you deliver it, because if you can do this, then the job offer is not too far away.
Get in here. Get in here and do it. Don't be afraid. Don't be intimidated. Don't think you're above reproach, above coming down to looking for a job or needing that group support, it's amazing how many people know somebody. This is such a small town, but the tentacles go everywhere.
15 seconds for a last-minute pitch.
ProNet is there to provide assistance to the professional and assistance to the employer. We see our job as being the intermediary to match the employer's needs with the professional of today.
And you don't charge anybody.
And there is no charge to the member or to the employer.
If you would like to find out more about ProNet and the services it offers, you can visit the ProNet website. We've got it on the screen for you. That is pronetreno.com. Our guests have been Peter Droog, who is ProNet Reno's branch manager, Rich Goldman, a ProNet graduate, who is now, I have to keep looking, your project manager at Miller Hyman, and Steve Mooney, director of Infinity Hospice Care. We have former ProNet members, we have employers, and they all point to a process that's free and beneficial to all. Thank you for all for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks very much to the ProNet members for sharing their insights, their experiences, and even a little of the video we've seen. Good luck in your job search. And thank you and our audience for joining us for a conversation.